What's in the news? What's in the news? Okay. So according to TMZ, and why they always got the information, I don't know. But according to TMZ, Kelly is asking for clemency for President Trump. Now everybody don't like Donald Trump. They don't like him. But he the one that's actually, letting some of the, the homies out of jail. Excuse me. And people are like, well, why would you want him out of jail? He did this, he did that. Listen to me. Look. Believe nothing you hear and half of the things you see. Had he done wrong? Yes. Had everybody done wrong? Yes. Who is you, the judge and the jury? See, this is the problem that I have, right? Now, they saying based on his high-profile case or his celebrity, he don't get a fair shake. And that's true. And we know it's true. If I had done that, will my case be on TV? Will I get the same 30 years that he got? No. I caught a fair case. I caught a fair case in 2009, 2011. I ended up being sentenced. Only got 6 months. My case was counterfeit money. So let's take somebody, take a celebrity, T.I. And T.I., will he have gotten the same 6 months, for $100,000 counterfeit cash? No. He'd have had to pay restitution, maybe $5 million restitution. He'd have got maybe 5 years probation and maybe 60 months in jail, which is 5 years, So, the law is the law, right? When you read the Bible, the book of Leviticus, which deals with the laws, it tells you if a man, I'm just speaking in, and not directly, but, parables. If a man steals $5 from you, you're to be paid that man $5 plus $2 interest. It tells you if you cause a man to lose some livestock, that's how you made your money back in the day with cattle, livestock. If you cause a man to lose livestock, then, you will have to double that. So in other words, if he lose a cow based on you, you owe him 2 cows. It don't say if a man lose a cow, you owe him 2 cows, but if you a high profile celebrity, then you owe him 30 cows. You're like, no, that's just the Sodom and Gomorrah effect. The law only works as a yo-yo, to benefit certain individuals, right? Now, it tells you, and this is based on Rkelly case, that he's charged with the Mann Act. Let me see. Kelly was convicted of federal racketeering, sex trafficking, and child sexual abuse across 2 major cities or whatever. Right. In 2021, a federal jury in Brooklyn, New York, convicted him of 9 counts, including racketeering, forced labor, and the Mann Act violation for operating a criminal enterprise that target women and underage girls, right? In 2022, a Chicago federal jury convicted him on 3 counts of child pornography and 3 court counts of enticing a minor to engage in illegal sexual activity. He is currently serving a combined total of 31 years in prison, right? Now, that's what they say. Although I haven't seen any tapes or anything, indicating that he done this. Now, when you say a minor, let's see. When you're dealing with minors, right? We're talking about a certain age, right? Under, what y'all call minor, the state don't call minor. All right, that's what we call minor. The state have its own. Hold on. Trying to see something real quick before I go in on it. Okay, Amanda, the reason the Carolina. Growing control, young women. They say young women, but I'm not getting the age. They say anywhere from 13 to 17, right? What was the ages? See, they not giving me an age. So when I asked what was the age of the victims, not a name, but the age, during the period of the Bruce Caban in his criminal trial, Rkelly primarily in his late 20s, 30s, and 40s, and while his victims ranged from 13 to 17 years old. Key age details from highly detailed. It's a key age details from his high publicity relations and federal court cases. Okay, Aaliyah, I was 27 years old when he married R&B singer Aaliyah, who was only 15. They was married, right? Jane, the central trial, Kelly was approaching 30 years old when he began a brutally sexual relationship with the victim, Jane, who was 15. Okay. All right, Kelly. So it says that Chicago proved they ain't got no under the age of 16. Some victims testified that their abuse began as young as 13 to 14 years old. Kelly was 55 years old when he was sentenced to 30 years. So this is crazy, right? Let me show you. So there's no proof of that at all. There's no proof at all. They saying some victims alleged they was 13. Where was their mamas at? You know, that's what I don't get. Now look, if it tells you, if you look at the consenting age, right, that a person can have sex, right? Let's go down the line. So let's go down the states. So if you're talking about Alabama, this is the age 16, sexual consent. Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Connecticut, Georgia, Hawaii, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Vermont, Washington, West Virginia, and Wyoming. You can be 16 and have sex, right? And then to be 17 for sex, Colorado, Illinois, Louisiana, Missouri, New Mexico, New York, Texas, and Wisconsin, which he was convicted in Chicago, Illinois, and New York, right? And then all the rest of the states I didn't mention, you have to be 18 years old, according to let them tell it, which is like Arizona, California, Delaware, Florida, Idaho, Michigan, North Dakota, Oregon, Tennessee, Utah, West Virginia, and District of Columbia, right? You have to be 18. So, what? This is my problem, right? Now they charged him with the Mann Act. Only person got charged with the Mann Act was Jack Johnson and Chuck Berry, and that's because they were dealing with the white women. Chuck Berry is famous for singing his musical career, and the white women loved him. He was in a car having sex. They didn't like that. Jack Johnson was knocking people out. I think that's where they got cigar off Street Fighter, with the the uppercut. He was doing that, knocking the white man out. He couldn't even celebrate. The man couldn't celebrate after knocking somebody out. He had to if he knocked somebody out, he had to hold his head down pretty much and walk out the ring in shame and disgust. Like, make it make sense, bro. So now, he had all the white women riding around with him. And with that being said, he had, they charged him with the Mann Act. Anything See, they use the law like a yo-yo. As I said, the law should be the law. If you steal $5, you pay $7. It don't matter who you is. You know, you can be 9 or 99. You know, that's how the law should work, but it don't work like that. And we know that just dealing with Jonathan Majors. When Jonathan Majors, when he you know, was dealing with the white lady and it's clearly showing her beating him up and him running, you know, they try to destroy his career. And you know, everybody step back from him. You know, what black people do, they step back when you're in hot water, you know. But it's a given law that states that if anything goes on, you know, when you're dealing with any type of case, you have to step back. And I found that out just dealing with the Chris Tucker, Michael Jackson. When Michael Jackson was on trial, but they tried to get him with that. But Michael Jackson was bigger than the system. See, the people won't fair to go with that. We grew up with Michael Jackson. But Chris Tucker, you know, stood 10 toes down with Michael Jackson. And his people was like, hey, listen, you need to step back. You know, at the time he was doing Rush Hour. He had the biggest. He was getting $20 million a film, unheard of back then, you know. But he was like one of the biggest actors in the world. And all that will come down, you know, if you support Michael Jackson. And so that's kind of, you know, what they was, you know, doing. Why they changed this video? I don't like they should have did that. But that's kind of what they try to do. What they try to do with the Michael Jackson, Chris Tucker. He ended up leaving the country, and you know that's why he ain't show up at Michael Jackson's funeral. There's a lot that go with this, man. So the law is used like a yo-yo. The law is used like a yo-yo. It's not who did what, or, you know, because they really don't care about the girls. You know, Rkelly tried to go back for his publishing, you know, which is worth billions, right? We know he one artist that did something with everybody and everything. He touched turn to gold. We know he was trying to get that back so he can get paid. Now, I found out, like, with Paul McCartney and, you know, he the one taught Michael Jackson about buying people publishing. That's how you make money. You buy the Beatles catalog. If they want to play, you know, I saw whatever, one of the Beatles song, whatever. I don't know the Beatles songs like that. I used to be a fan, but you know, I saw her holding her hand or something. If you want to play that on a commercial, you know, you get $150,000 for paying a 10-second clip. That's the way the publishing works. You know, anybody that's not aware of that. Anything that you want to use a song in a movie, that's big payday. You know, you probably get $500,000. You know, that's how that works. You know, but you know, that's kind of you know, where we was at with it as far as that. I don't know why. I hate that they redid this video, and I don't like that. But so with Rkelly, you know, he's saying that he didn't get a fair shot, which he didn't. You know, they tried to do Bill Cosby, you know, which we all know. They had nothing on Bill, but he tried to buy CBS. You know, so they use the law like a yo-yo. It's like a game to them. They sit back at the table like, hey, if we do this, we just use the law here. And that's how they use the law to get people off their square, you know, things like that. So, you know, my thing is, you know, when you're dealing with the law like that, you know, you have to have the right lawyers. But that's why they got Johnny Cochran up out the way. Johnny Cochran wasn't going for that. You know what I mean? He got OJ off, and, you know, after he started dealing with certain people, I think he was involved with the Snoop Dogg case, I believe. And after that, they had to get him up out of there. He was, you know, he was too smart of a Negro, if you catch my drift. You know, and so yeah, they didn't like that at all. But you know, you know, my thing is, let's talk about the law. Now they saying Rkelly was dealing with minors. Woo woo. Okay, let's talk about P. Diddy. Why is he locked up? Everybody was grown. You see him on video saying, "Hey, it's time to go home. We got to get on some grown folks stuff." everybody at the party of P. Diddy party was what? Grown. And, they was consenting ages, right? But you still got him in jail. Had I done that, would I got the same time? Would my case even be a fair case? The cases only go federal once if you're a high profile case. So you get people like the T.I., the Jonathan Majors. You get people like, the, Young Thug, Lil Durk, all these regular neighborhood dudes that grew up around the corner from me, they get federal cases because of their status, which is kind of showing something like, hey, no matter how big you get, we can always take you down, bud. That's kind of what I'm getting with that. Man, it's disturbing at some point because, let's talk about, again, let's do this. Tobacco, you got to be 18, right? You got to be 18 to buy tobacco. You got to be 21 to buy liquor, right? Because you're a minor. You got, that's why some clubs you got to be 21 to get in because they serve liquor. Some clubs make you got to be 23, some 30, right? Because even at 21, you still can't handle it. Some people can't handle their liquor at 30 and 40. So that's why they don't want them in the club. Liquor, things happen with the youth, right? But let's say, right, if they say you have to be 18 because you're considered grown at 18. All right, that's the law. I got you. Why when someone black 16 commit murder, you charge them as adult? I know people 15 that's charged as an adult. So the law don't work in that situation. When he's 16, he was aware of what he done. We're going to charge him as an adult. You're going to charge him as an adult, then if he want to buy cigarettes at 16 and liquor, he should be able to buy that if he's aware of what he's doing. So that's a perfect example of how the law works. The law only works for itself. The law don't work because it's the law. So, a lot of this quackery, things, that's, appearing before the black people. It's crazy. They try to get Muhammad Ali. They try to get Michael Jordan. Look at, what's the dude's name? Jaylen Brown. Currently, with him, getting removed from Boston because he didn't want an agent, to be stealing his money. He said he gonna be in charge of his own money. He went to college. He got, he real smart. He said he gonna be in charge of his own money. I signed a $400 million deal. My agent get 10%. He's getting what, $40 million of my money? For what? For the same deal I can do? I go to ChatGPT and they can tell me how to do my own deal. So he wanted to negotiate his own contract. But see, they put an agent in play because the agent's going to make sure you broke before you leave the NBA. You make them a lot of money when you're younger because they know that you don't know how to spend the money. Look at all the famous people who have millions of dollars and now look at them, probably working at McDonald's or something. It's a lot of them, but they know that when you're younger, you don't, you want to buy cars, jewelry, women, clothing. You don't invest your money. Invest is like telling a black man to read a book. They're not going to do that. So that's the problem that, we have, as a youth and, with generational wealth. But, with Jaylen Brown, he like, man, I need to watch my own money, bro. I'm talking about. He real smart and real bright, and he didn't want an agent. So now it's like they don't want a lot of other men. Because see, if Jaylen Brown do it, and him being like, I think he was like a president of the NBA players or something, group like that. If he's doing this, and a lot of players like, man, Jaylen Brown, man, he doing it. Well, I can do it. They don't want that trend, so they need to. They're gonna make some type of clause that you have to have an agent representing you. You can't represent yourself. Just like they don't want you representing yourself in court. They want a public defender because the public defender work with the court and to help send you to jail. Hey, I'm on your side, bro. Listen to me, man. I know this judge. He don't fuck around. I can get you probation, man, but hey, listen to me, man. You have to walk this probation pretty good. But they tell you that you just ready to go home, not knowing, goddamn it, it's a win for the court, for the judge, for the public defender, and it's still a conviction on your record. You go home as conviction. So next time you catch a case, guess what? Hey, he was convicted of this. Whether you pleaded guilty and got probation, you still found guilty. It's on your record. A lot of people don't look at that. They're just trying to go home. I'm just not trying to sit in jail. Look at the Carmelo Anthony case. 35 years, no court, no courtroom surveillance. Certain people could come in. The jury's really not being revealed. But with the OJ case, it went big and national TV. Same with the Rodney King. But we're gonna hide this one. We're gonna blackball this young black man. Give him 35 years the same day, which is kind of unheard of. Usually when you get convicted, you don't get the sentence the same day. They gave man sentence the same day, and let's hurry up and wrap this case up and get up out of here. Come on, man. Listen to me, man. That man want to get out of jail because he didn't get a fair shake. He been in there, 5, 6, 7 years. Like, what he got to do? Life sentence? For dealing with some women? Make it make sense, man. Make it make sense. If he's a perv, he's a perv. You got a resident sex offender, whatever. I don't believe none of that. They talking about the women during the time in his 20s, 30s, and 40s. Now you still going back 30 years. The man 55. So now you're going back 20, 30 years to try to convict them on. Talking about some of the women was 13, 14. Who can prove that? Who can prove that? It's some he say, she say. Come on, the man, listen to me. I don't buy that. The man wanted his publishing. That's so y'all gonna railroad him. Y'all came up with some shit with Smokey Robinson talking about he doing something with his housekeeping. That went away quietly. Guess Smokey played ball. They did it with Arnold Schwarzenegger with his maid. That went away quietly. Whatever happened, man, hey, all we need you to do, like they do Cassidy with P. Diddy, all we need you to do is just say, he did this and did that. They got surveillance of him beating her ass in the hallways. Okay, he got to pay $30 million for beating her ass? Come on, man. Make it make sense. If I could divorce my wife and I got $5,000 in my account, how much should she get? Well, you got $5,000, I don't know. Give her $1,500, pay alimony, $300 a month. Okay, that's fine. But what if I got $50 million? Oh, $50 million. Oh, well, that changes. $50 million. I think she's entitled to, $20 million and, spousal support, child support. You to pay for the college and this and that's really just to rob a black man. They don't want the black man to rise because they understand the extent of, what comes with that. It's a lot of things wrapped up in prophecy that y'all not gonna understand. So I'm not gonna get into that right now. Right now, I'm just talking to the boy went to the store, because that's what a lot of people understand. Y'all not gonna understand this shit bigger than Nino Brown. It's bigger than Nino Brown. So him asking for clemency, saying, listen to me, man, because of my high profile case, I didn't get a fair shot. They want to put it in the media. Anything that hit the media, it amplifies. Anything in the media amplifies. One dude just did a killing. It made national news at the Lions Den in Chicago, right? And what ended up happening is this dude got 63 years. 63 years. High profile case, right? But there's other guys in here, like when you look at the first 48, and remember, them cases are already pre-recorded. People do a killing and plead guilty to second-degree murder and say the dude get 8 years off of murder. It's not high profile. It's not in the media and stuff like that. So when you start doing media and amplify, TMZ start getting involved, everybody watching, they have to make an example. It's not fair. It's not fair. So yeah, he should get clemency. He should be able to come home because all this stuff here is nonsense, gang. Let's call it, let's keep it $1. It's nonsense. I called my Fed case. I got 6 months. My shit not high profile. Judge Rebecca Paulmeyer. Look her up. Federal Judge Rebecca Paulmeyer. So no, I don't think he should be to 30 years. because some he say, she say. Like I said, we know how they do, and Draymond Green say, hey, they want to, they want to take all your money, your finances, and I didn't like Draymond Green, but his podcast, he be speaking some positive shit. As a player, basketball player, I don't like him. Fake tough guy shit. But when you listen to people podcast and outside the NBA, and you hear how people talking this and that, I can respect him as a man. But you got to come keep it a dollar, speak the truth. If you want to do some quackery on the court like Dennis Rodman, that's fine. But one thing about Dennis Rodman, he was who he was. It wasn't no banana tailpipe shit with Buddy. He was who he was, and that's what I respect about anybody. Just be who you are. If you're a female, if you're a whore, you're a whore. I respect you for that. Be who you are. Don't try to marry me knowing you're a whore, try to act like a housewife. That's where the problems come in. If you're a guy, you're on a DL, man. Speak your truth. Just be who you are. And that's how that's how I am. So when I hear about certain things he say in the media, and I can resonate with it. That's why I rock with Cromby Brown. Be who you are, man. I don't like all this fake, working for the media style. I don't like all that. Man, free that man. But there he talked to Trump, man. Y'all understand? Trump been freeing people, bro. Trump been freeing a lot of people, man. Nobody like Trump. Trump did this, he did that, yeah. But now we need to lean on Trump to let him free. And I know a lot of y'all don't want Rkelly to be free. That's on y'all. Y'all don't want him to be free, that's fine. But, Christ said, let him without sin be the first to cast a stone. Everybody has sins. Let's amplify your sins, your wrongdoing. Let's see what happens. A lot of y'all, smoking rocks or smoking drugs, that's illegal. Let's take that and put it in the media, and now you facing 30 years, for because illegal use of drugs. Come on, man. Y'all break the law every day. Like make it make sense, man. So I don't know, man. That's my take on it, man. I want to speak on that because I think it's bogus. I think it's bogus how they doing Buddy, and I think hopefully he should get that. I will write him, and I just don't want them people I don't want them people in my business, man. They will get in your business, man. I don't want them people in my business, so I'm kind of fall back on that. I might still write them or something and just use hey, some code, hey, man, this woo, and use my old address. I don't need them people fucking with me, man. But I do want to reach out to him and shit. But they say he got a blood clot in his neck, that which I can believe. When you're dealing with, if you get the COVID shot, one of the effects tells you that you get blood clots. That's why you see people falling out. Just fall out, heart attacks, a lot of that, young people. People 23, 22, athletes who's supposed to be healthy, falling out on the court, on the field, because that COVID shot clogs your blood. But y'all listen to the government. So y'all got a slow death that y'all don't even know about, and it's crazy, But that's what happened when you side with the government over Christ, Read your scriptures. But that's where I'm at with it, man. I'm about to really kind of just pop off, sign off. I just wanted to bring this to the forefront. And this was filed, I believe, July 15th, according to TMZ. So, I'm going to keep an eye on this, man. And, like I said, the only work, the Asian man that shot the dude, say he's still in the store, he can beat that. Now they made an Asian law. You can't harm an Asian or whatever. It's a hate crime. The Natasha, what Tupac talked about, the Asian lady shot the girl for stealing a bag of chips, shot in her head. She ended up beating that. But they can go back to their country, Asia, China, somewhere, Japan, But they come up here and get rich off our land. Come on, man. Y'all make it make sense, bro. You got black people killing black people every day. Nothing come of it. White man killed a black guy, y'all marching. We racist towards everybody. We hate our own kind. We don't like the Asians. We don't like the white people. We don't like the Mexicans, the Chinese, So I get it. I get it why y'all want him to stay in jail, But, man, look in the mirror, man. That's what Michael Jackson came up with, the man in the mirror. They try to take him down, I don't know, man. This shit big, you know. All this shit is big, man. But I'm gonna keep an eye on this case, man. I'll keep y'all posted on it, man. I gotta rock out. I just wanted to bring some awareness. Hey, make sure y'all subscribe to this channel, man. I need 1,000 subscribers. I'm almost there. Start seeing how this ad money look. We just, you know, I bring more content, you know. Summertime, I'm doing a lot of shit. You know, we going from there. You know, summertime. You know, I'll be back on my regular broadcast schedule though, but I got a lot going on, man. You know, I do a lot of different things. I DJ. You know, I got other channels. I got Facebook. I'm busy, but I'm rocking out with y'all, man. So, man, you know, we gonna do this shit the right, man. But I'm gonna get up with y'all, man. Please subscribe and like it. The more likes I get, the more YouTube show it. And, you know, when I start seeing better results, man, you know, hey, you know, we'll go from there. But I'm out, man. Holla at you.